Alright, so we're going to begin Parashat Vayishlach tonight. This is a long parasha, and it contains a lot of valuable information, especially that which concerns the relationship between the Jewish people and Esav. If you recall, Yaakov and Esav are twins, but they're very, very different. And not everyone pays attention to those differences. As the Zohar says, when many people learn the Torah, they read the Torah, they think it's just stories. The stories are just on the surface, but there's a deeper meaning behind the verses, behind the words, behind the messages that the Torah is conveying to us. So some of those lessons that are embedded in Torah we'll cover tonight, especially that which concerns this unique relationship that exists between Yaakov and Esav. They go back a long time, and they're still out there, this relationship. So it's important to first keep in mind the famous saying that the rabbis tell us, Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. All that has occurred to our forefathers is an indicator, is a sign to the children. In other words, if we look at what happened to them, we can get a glimpse, an idea of what will happen with us. So they went through many experiences, and those experiences are important for us. In other words, if we pay attention and see how they related, how they dealt with those situations, we can also be helped. Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim also means that we can learn from them. We can learn from their midot, from their conduct, how to conduct ourselves in our daily lives. Yaakov, more than any other of the forefathers, represents the Jewish people. It is he who has the 12 tribes from which the Jewish nation is formed. However, each one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, represents or symbolizes a different stage in our history. So, for example, Abraham represents the stage of where the emunah, the faith, monotheistic faith, will be disseminated, will be spread all over the world. It is a stage in the history. Yitzhak represents the self-sacrifice. So what you have here is various stages in world history with its unique challenges. So you have the challenges that concern faith, the challenges that concern self-sacrifice, where Jews will be tested, whether they're willing to give their life for what they believe in. We have the Inquisition, for example. And you have Yaakov, which represents the entire nation, the entire Jewish nation, fighting for the Torah, fighting for the truth, fighting for their identity. So as I've explained in the past, you have here two opposing camps. You have all kinds of challenges that the Jewish people are going to face. However, regardless of the challenges, for the most part, on all of them, it is said, Rabot ra'ot tzadikim v'kulam yatzilenu Hashem. There's a verse that says, many are the trials, many are the hardships of the righteous, but from all, God will save them. It is the battle, however, that Yaakov has to face with Esav that is different, because that is a spiritual battle. That is not necessarily always a physical confrontation. And that is the more dangerous one of all of them, the more challenging of all of them. Because what you have here is a battle that Esav is waging, or Amalek, to try to disconnect the Jew from his faith, to try to disconnect the Jew from what he represents. Yeah, Esav has a whole completely different philosophy than the Jew, and therefore the two of them are very not compatible. As we get closer to Hanukkah, you can appreciate this, because when you study about the story of Hanukkah, the background, what the Greeks attempted to do was exactly that, was to stamp out any signs of spirituality. Everything was about the physical body. And Judaism stressed, emphasized the importance of spirituality in our connection, in our service with Hashem. So came along the Greeks and decreed all kinds of decrees in order to get the Jews to assimilate to their ways, not only to their lifestyle, but to their way of thinking. And that posed a tremendous danger. What was the danger? Because they were friendly in the beginning. They weren't threatening you physically. Just come to the gym, come and study, don't do this and don't do that. Little by little, they wanted the Jew to part with his tradition and see the beauty in the Greek philosophy, to see the beauty in their way of life. And a lot of people get caught up in this and they think, oh, this is nice, this is interesting. And at first, innocently, they don't see anything wrong with it. But there's always that danger that people will get caught, especially those that are not so knowledgeable and don't appreciate what they have. And they see, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I'll replace what I have with this. Why not? But that's exactly what the Greeks intended to do. In order for their way of life to take over, for it to have more influence, they needed to somehow subjugate the people wherever they went. How do you subjugate them and you don't necessarily force them or physically enslave them? What do you do to them? Somehow you convince them, you show them the beauty that you have, and you market it in whatever way you can. And many people went for it, and they became Hellenist Jews, thinking that this is okay, it's compatible. After all, they're not stopping from being Jewish, they're just going to adopt a little bit of this way of life. They're going to speak the Greek language, they're going to study Greek philosophy, but in the end, it poisons their way of thinking. It contaminates the Jewish mind, and as a result of that, they become more and more disconnected from the Torah way of life. If you remember, the main emphasis in Hanukkah is what? Oil. It's the Chanukiah. Why is that so much emphasized in Hanukkah? Of course, there's a story behind it, but why is that so emphasized? Because we're talking about oil. What does oil represent? What does the flame represent? It represents the neshama. And that is why when we put the oil on top of water, what will you notice? That it's floating on the water. It doesn't mix well. So that is the point of what Judaism represents. What the Torah is supposed to remind us is that you cannot mix with anything that is foreign to it. It has to always stay on top. Otherwise it won't burn. Otherwise it won't succeed. If we want to succeed as a nation, if we want to be able to give over those teachings to the future generation, we want to make sure that it's always on top and not mixed. And therefore, this light is emphasized in Hanukkah because that is exactly what they wanted to eliminate. That we should not have that emphasis that we have on the neshama. What is the neshama? What is this all about? So anyway, that is exactly what happened in Hanukkah, and for the most part, that's what happens continuously with those forces out there that threaten the Jew. That is why in this parasha you will notice a very unusual type of battle. A battle of the minister of Esav with Yaakov. A battle that is very unusual because this is a battle of a minister, an angel, not an ordinary human being, even though it appears to be a human being battling with Yaakov during the night. Right? You remember that? What's going on? What kind of a battle is this? Right before he faces his brother, he has to deal with this battle. And after the battle is over, he limps because he was hit in the sciatic nerve. He was injured. What's this injury all about? And to make things worse, the Jewish people cannot eat the Gida Nasheh. We cannot eat the sciatic nerve. If you want to have filet mignon, you have to remove it. You have to know how to remove it, and since it's very, very costly, it's time consuming, not everybody knows how to remove it. We have few experts in this area, so a lot of people don't eat the back portion of the animal where the sciatic nerve runs. So what's this battle between the minister of Esav and Yaakov? What does this represent? It represents the battle between Sheker and Emet, between that which is false and that which is true. Sheker and Emet. And ask yourself, why are there so many wars to begin with? Why can't everybody just live the way they want to live, believe what they want to believe? Why are some empires or some nations so insisting on imposing their way of life or their views on others? Let everybody live the way they want to. Well, obviously you're going to tell me, well, they want to subjugate them, and if you're going to be very, very different than them, then you won't be able to have so much control over them. Yes, that's true if you want to subjugate, but why do you want to subjugate them? So much so. Taxation, I can understand somewhat, but to subjugate them in a way that they should convert to your faith, that they should be like you, why? Perhaps there's something nice about what they do. Why not let everybody live the way they live, the way they want to be, what they want to believe? The answer to that, the real answer is, because this is a continuous battle between Sheker and Emet. When Sheker, when the false one sees Emet, or sees something that is a threat to it, it cannot take it. The Jew has always been a threat to those who teach or preach something completely different. They realize that if they want to succeed, if they want to survive, he won't let them. The Jew was a threat to them. And that is why you have all these wars. War which is really many, many times a battle between Sheker and Emet. Which is the battle that is most along these lines? The battle that Christianity has had for all these years. After the destruction of the Second Temple, by whom? By Rome. Who is Rome? Edom, Esav. What do you have after the destruction of the Temple, the Bet HaMikdash? You have a new religion called Christianity, which you didn't have before. All of a sudden, Esav wants to be religious. He wasn't. They were pagan. But I have a whole lecture about that. Why is Esav all of a sudden becoming religious? Why is a religion being formed right now that is closer to monotheism than what was there before? So here you have a new religion that is trying its best to disseminate its teachings all over the world. And if people do not buy it, then they tried force. Just like Islam did. If you didn't buy into it, you didn't live by it or agree to it, then they were prepared to kill you. They went after you. Whether it was jihad in Islam or whether it was the Crusades, all the various wars that they waged against those who did not believe like them. And that's what the Jew had to face. That was one of the challenges that they had to face when the Christian did not succeed in convincing, in proselytizing the Jew. Then he used force. And that is why we had the Inquisition and all the various challenges, the many pogroms, where they threatened entire communities and killed thousands upon thousands of Jews and others as well, in trying to preach their way of life and what they saw fit for humanity to adopt. The Chafetz Chaim says something very, very interesting. He says, the minister of Esav is not bothered by the chesed, the kindness of Abraham. He's not bothered by the self-sacrifice of Yitzchak. He has no issues with them. Who does he bother? Who does he go after? Yaakov. He's bothered by the Torah of Yaakov, which is what we've been talking about. That is exactly the problem here. It's the Torah, it's the way of life, it's the way of thinking. It's what the Jewish people teach that bothers them, because what they represent is totally not compatible with what we teach. So as long as the Jew was alive, it bothered them. How could he still be alive? The survival of the Jew meant that what they were doing was wrong. Because according to them, they would not survive, they would not exist for too long. They would eventually be eliminated one way or another. And here they continue stubbornly to hold on to their teachings. What is that? It's basically a fulfillment of the prophets, of all the prophecies that they said that the Jewish people are going to eventually come back to their land, and eventually they're going to be restored as a nation. If that's the case, then what they're saying is true. This is a very, very big topic, and I don't want to get into that, but the point is that whenever the Jew was at the forefront of anything, was succeeding in his way of life, living by his Torah, that posed a threat to Christianity, which is why they were at each other's throat all the time. It bothered them that he was succeeding in his way of life, where according to them, he was completely in the wrong. You must have heard all kinds of explanations for anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism has deep roots, goes back a long time, but the main explanation that they ignore is not because they're jealous of us or because we stand out in our closed way of life, that we don't mingle. These are all excuses, even though there's some truth to that. The main reason behind anti-Semitism is Halakha Esav Sonet Yaakov. halacha. The rabbis tell us that's the halacha. In other words, ever since the Torah was given to us, especially since then, Esav hates Yaakov. It's the two camps that cannot get along with each other. One cannot tolerate the other. That's the main reason. Okay, if we were to do the right thing, then the fact that Esav hates us wouldn't bother us. So he doesn't like us, but if we were to do the right thing, we would follow the Torah, then we wouldn't have any troubles whatsoever. Hashem would protect us. The problems begin when we don't follow the Torah. What kind of problems? Esav has a good complaint. Yaakov took my blessings. He doesn't deserve the blessings if he's not conducting himself according to the ways of the Torah. So our blessings were conditioned on this important point. So if Esav is going after us, we should be concerned that perhaps we're doing something wrong and not just blame him. Why? What do you want from us? Perhaps it is with us that something is not right. Even though I'm not saying that he's right, he's definitely wrong. He doesn't give him the right to hurt people. But we need to examine ourselves if this is what's happening to us. Why is this happening? Maybe we're doing something wrong. There's a nice story where a butcher was once called to court, to a bet din. And the person that was suing him in court, the bet din, won the case. He lost, the butcher lost, and the other person won. That's what the rabbi decided. So the butcher was very, very upset and started yelling at the rabbi, "This is wrong, I'm the one that's right." And he made a big commotion. The rabbi asked him, "Tell me, I don't understand you. Remember the other day you were in this bet din, and the question that came up was whether a particular cow was kosher or not, because they found something in the lung. And I told you back then, when that question came up, that it was not kosher. So that was a tremendous financial loss to you. And you didn't complain. How come now you're complaining?" So the butcher answered, "Very simple, Rabbi. Back then, I lost. Nobody won. Here, I lost, but somebody else won. That's what bothers me. It bothers him more that he won, that somebody else won, than that he lost. When it was his cow, it was just his loss. Here, this guy won. That's what bothers him." But that's exactly what happens between the various religions. Sometimes it's not a matter of just, we're different. Okay, so let's live in peace and let's accept the differences. No. If this guy is going ahead, if this guy is advancing, if this guy is succeeding in some way, that means there must be some truth over there to what he's doing. That's what bothers them. They know, a lot of people know, a lot of religions, a lot of groups know that they're not exactly 100% right. There's a lot of duplicity, a lot of contradictions, but they can live with it somehow. What bothers them is that somebody else has something which appears to be better. And then you have others that are even converting to Judaism, even though we don't ask them to. Why is it? They must have seen something. They must have realized that this is
the truth.
No, that what they've been used to doing or believing is just unfounded. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't hold up. There's too many contradictions. So a lot of people think. When you think and you compare, you notice certain things. So with Judaism, because of its teachings, because of its vast amount of teachings, one can see for himself that this makes a lot of sense, that this is true. God did not change his mind somehow, like some people want to claim, and give a new religion to the Jews. To others, maybe yes. Others can have their faith, their way of living. As long as they abide by the 7 Noahide laws, they can be fine people. We don't have a problem with that. Just don't bother us. We have here a mission, and in order for us to succeed in this mission, we can't mix. Please, don't think that we're not being respectful of you, just that we have here a mission, and we need to defend this mission at all costs. The most difficult war, however, is when you have an internal war, when you have Jews amongst themselves not united, fighting amongst themselves. And that is what Yaakov was alluding to when he said, when he heard that Esau was coming to attack him, he says, I've been forced to become two camps, because he split the entire family into two. He says, look, what this has forced me to do, I'm right now two camps. This is a remes, this is alluding to the fact that when Jews are fighting amongst each other and have become two camps, they are their own worst enemy. And that brings about a tremendous accusation against them. That is what brings on Esav, that is what brings on their enemies. If they themselves cannot get along, it makes it easy for others to attack them.
But
they become weaker.
Esav was a Jewish person?
No, Judaism begins after Matan Torah, not before. Right. But still, these are the roots of Judaism. So you follow, when the Jews amongst themselves are not united, they are weakened. When they are weakened, it makes it easier for the enemy, for other enemies to come and attack them. On the other hand, if they are united, even they may not be completely righteous and they have certain things they do wrong, they're sinful, Hashem overlooks that. He says they're united, they're together. So the unity brings tremendous strength to the Jewish people, whereas divisiveness weakens them and allows the enemies to enter, to invade. So what happens in that battle with the minister of Esav? He hit Yaakov in the hip, right, in the hip bone, and that's where the sciatica is, or what they call the dislocated tendon. And as a result of that, we don't eat the Gid HaNasheh. The whole battle, as I said, is unusual, but why not eat that Gid HaNasheh? All it is a gid. It's a sinew. It's a tendon. It has no time. It has no taste. So what's wrong? Why not eat it? So there are many Kabbalistic explanations as to what the Gid HaNasheh represents. I'm just going to give you one idea. If you look at the word Nasheh, Gid HaNasheh, the dislocated tendon, the word for dislocated, Nasheh, also means forgetfulness. This is the strategy of Amalek, this is the strategy of Esav, is to get the Jew disconnected from his root, from his source, for him to completely forget about who he is and what he represents. Let him be distracted completely. Let him forget what he represents. Let him completely not pay attention that he belongs to a proud nation. There are other great nations. So as we explained with Amalek before, the strategy of Amalek is to cool the Jew off from all that excitement that he may have had for the Torah, and to try to get him interested in something else. Move him away, if possible without force, from what he believes in, and introduce something else. You have to introduce something else, some other belief too. You can't just tell him, stop believing, and that's it. No. You have to do it in a way where he would see, oh, this is interesting, this is perhaps nice. Now, many people did not do it because they were forced, but they were tempted. There was this beautiful non-Jewish girl that they wanted to marry, or the other way around. There was this young man that she wanted to marry, who was not Jewish. So sometimes, because of some temptation, not by force, they were lured into letting go of their tradition. But as I said before, these are the people who were weak to begin with. They didn't fully appreciate what they had. They were not proud of their heritage, so it was easily for them to fall. Somebody who is very, very strong in his commitment to Torah and mitzvot is not just going to fall for it. Even if you offer him $10 million, you won't be able to get him to change his mind. So we talk about weak people. The weak links, those are the ones that fall in the hands of Esav and Amalek. So Gid HaNasheh represents that dislocated tendon, trying to get the Jew to dislocate himself, if we can borrow that word, from his people, from his identity, from what he represents, and make him forget that this is anything but special. But a tendon is just a tendon. What's the big deal with a tendon, you might ask? But you know what a nerve does. What is the importance of the nerve? What's the function of the nerve in the human body? It transmits pain right? Amongst other things, to the brain. So even though it has no taste, it does have an important role. So what it transmits to the brain. So this is symbolic in reminding us, look, he hit that particular spot where the nerves will transmit to the brain. The brain will become affected by these teachings or by this new lifestyle. This is where the danger is. So even though we were always threatened physically as well, it wasn't so much the physical danger as the spiritual danger. The spiritual danger was always a greater danger, because physical danger means somebody dies, but at least the religion remains. Spiritual danger means you have people who are alive, but they're spiritually dead, and their children and their grandchildren, what will be taught and transmitted to the next generation will be completely diluted. So this was always a greater danger, because from the physical danger, Hashem promised already that He will protect us as well. Even though a lot of people got killed, you had a Holocaust. But there's rebirth. People are born again. But spiritual danger means that you have a whole mission here that is going to stop. If you have too many Jews that go away, that move away from this mission, then it doesn't get done, the work doesn't get done. So that was always a greater danger than the physical danger. So even though all it is a tendon, all it is a sinew, it is a symbolic interpretation, or I should say symbolic description of what Esav was trying to do. He hit that spot because he wants us to forget our identity. Now that we understand what the strategy of Esav was, you can appreciate why the rabbis decreed, as you mentioned earlier, all kinds of harchakot, all kinds of halachot to maintain safe distance from the non-Jew. Not to eat certain foods, the wine and the like, even though it's kosher. All of this, the intent was that we don't mingle too much, that we don't get too close, because it could lead to assimilation or intermarriage. But I have to repeat, nothing wrong with the people. It's just that if we want to preserve what we have no choice. Because human beings have feelings, are very, how should we say, very easily convinced. You can pressure people in a way that you can convince them to do almost anything. A human being is not made out of stone. With money you can bribe him. Good looks can definitely go a long way in producing all kinds of results, and some of them are not so good. Some, not good results. So you have to be careful. The Chachamim understood the psychology of human beings, how frail they are, how they can easily fall, and they said, listen, for your own good, for your own benefit, in order that you keep a distance, we decree so and so, and that's what we have to follow. Nobody should ever say it's not going to happen to me. It has happened to the best of people. So the Chachamim knew what they were doing, so we have to abide by these laws in order to preserve our Torah. We have no choice. We respect every human being as long as they don't hurt us, they don't bother us. Why not? We accept everyone. But please realize that we were trying to protect what is ours. That's all. That's all we have in mind when we have those distances. If you look at our history, unfortunately, many people, many Jews, somehow were influenced by alien philosophies, and they veered off the path. And either they formed religions of their own, or groups, cults, philosophies of all kinds, as a result of their independent way of thinking. Now, there's nothing wrong with being independent and creative in your thinking as long as it's compatible with the Torah. But they came up with all kinds of ideas that are foreign to the Torah. That's where you have reform and conservatism. The Torah says in advance, this is going to happen. You're going to have false prophets. You're going to have people from amongst you, from your midst, that will attempt to make changes, to alter the Torah. Remember, this is wrong. I'm telling you now, Hashem says, don't listen to them. They're false. I never sent anybody to tell you this. I'm letting you know right now that this Torah will remain the same forever. So isn't it clear, black and white, that the Torah did not change? The statement was made very clearly. So you cannot say later on, God changed his mind. He said, I will not. He said in advance that there will be false prophets. So if what he says, if what he teaches is not compatible with the Torah, goes against an established halakha in the Torah, a mitzvah, then you know that he's a false prophet. It can't be that what he's saying is truthful. So what do? How do we protect ourselves from being contaminated by all these thoughts? After all, I mean, any human being is prone to absorb all kinds of things from other cultures. No one can say, I'm completely safe. So what can we do to defend ourselves, other than, of course, not mingling with them? The rabbis tell us a very famous saying: don't blame the mouse for entering the house, blame the hole. La achbara ganava, chora ganava. The way the mouse was able to get through is the hole. You left the hole. There's an opening. So it's not the mouse that's the problem here, that he was able to get in. It's the hole. Had there been no hole, then the mouse would not enter. What does this tell us? That somehow we have openings. We see things, we hear things, and if we don't seal those openings, all kinds of things are going to get in that should not get in. And it's hard to eliminate them once they've gotten in. So how do we seal the hole? What's one thing that we can do to seal the hole? I said one thing because there's many things that need to be done, but one thing that is important for us to do in sealing the hole is the name Yisrael. If you look at this week's Parasha, somehow Yaakov receives a new name. The name is no longer Yaakov, it's Israel. Now, it doesn't mean that Yaakov is cancelled. Yaakov still is retained as his original name, but it is supplemented with Israel. And that is the way the Jewish people are called, Israel. What's that all about? And by the way, who gave him that name? The angel of Esav. You have fought with an angel, and now your name will be Yisrael. Well, what does Israel mean? You're a prince. You're a prince of God. You're a sar. In other words, you have a very important title. You know who you are? The fact that you were able to defeat me, that means you have tremendous strength, tremendous potential. It means that you could win the war if you really want to. The war of emet against sheker, of truth against falsehood. This is the strategy that you have to have in mind when fighting Esav. Be Israel. Remember that you're a prince. Remember that you are a chosen nation. Remember your identity and your mission. Those, therefore, that are not proud of their Judaism, that are embarrassed to be Jewish, they are the ones that are keeping that hole open. That's where the problems begin. If you would be proud of your Judaism, if you would be proud of what you represent, and you would understand the importance of this mission, then there's no real opening there. There are still potential openings. Obviously, you have to be careful where you go and what you hear and what you see. The eyes and the ears, of course, could lead one into trouble. But this particular hole has to be sealed. Remember, you are Israel. You're not anymore Yaakov, the heel, the bottom. Even though we are called Yaakov when we are in the exile. That is the title that the Jews have because we're in exile. So we're not what we could be. We have no temple. But still, in reality, our title is still Israel. We're still the prince. We're still Hashem's children, as long as we follow the Torah. So if we remember that, and we're proud of what we do, and we're happy to be who we are, then that will be a tremendous benefit to us in helping us protect ourselves from any mice that may want to enter, any bad influence. So this is the way to defeat Esav, is for the Jew to remind himself, why should I go for this philosophy? Why should I change? What I have is much better. I'm proud of who I am, proud of what I have. Why should I change? But those who do not have an understanding of what they have, You offer them some money, like some of the missionaries do, and that is how you get them to fall. The greatest danger, however, that one has from an enemy is b'shat sakana. During a time of danger, the rabbis tell us, that is the greatest potential for harm. In other words, when one goes to a battlefield, when one is in any dangerous situation, hasatan mekatreg. The rabbis tell us, hasatan mekatreg b'shat sakana. The Satan accuses the individual during a time of danger. What does that mean, he accuses? It means that the ledger upstairs is open, the pinkas is open, and they examine, should we perform a miracle for him or not? Should we protect him? There's mines, there's bullets flying. So during a time of danger, that is when you have to be very extra careful from any accusation. So don't, therefore, put yourself voluntarily into a dangerous situation. It's okay, Hashem will protect me. No, because even if they do perform a miracle on your behalf, if you didn't deserve the miracle, they will subtract it from your merits upstairs. So you don't want to go now. If you're a soldier, you have no choice. You're going to be going into the battlefield against your will. But if you have a choice, then avoid danger, avoid dangerous situations, because the books, the ledger will be open anytime a person is in danger. Should we perform a miracle? Should we protect him or not? Where do we see this in this week's parasha? With Yaakov and Rachel. Yaakov is in danger. He's about to be attacked by Esav with 400 men. This is a Shata Sakana. That is when that angel came and fought with him. This is a very critical moment. There's accusations. Yaakov was away from home for a long time. He didn't fulfill the mitzvah of Kibud Avayim. He took all those blessings from Esav, and perhaps he doesn't deserve them. Perhaps he's not doing anything right. That all leads to accusation. What happened with Rachel? She died at childbirth. Childbirth is a dangerous time. A lot of women have died. A lot of women have died at childbirth, giving birth. Therefore, you need extra merits during those times. I'm not going to get into why Rachel died at that point, but this was a very, very critical time. So what happens when the Jewish people are about to enter Israel? On 4 occasions, Amalek attacks. When? Just when they're about to enter Israel. 4 times this happened. The first time was Yaakov is going back to Israel. Who does he meet up with? Esav. That's number 1. Number 2, the Jewish people left Egypt on their way to Israel. Who confronts them? Right away. Not 40 years later. Amalek. Number 3, the Jews are about to come back from Babylonia and from Persia to rebuild the second temple. Who tries to stop them? Haman. Amalek, you see? Number 4, the Jews are coming back to Israel. And who tries to stop them now? Hitler, World War II. You see, it's all Amalek. It's all Edom, all Esav. When? Right before they're about to move back to Israel. Right before they're about to come back to Israel. It is at that time that there is an accusation against them. Somehow, coming back to Israel is a very good thing, obviously. But this presents a chance for the opposing camp, for the accusation, to accuse. Do they really deserve this? Do they really deserve this? This is a big miracle. This is something special and important. We're about to give them a gift. So since they're about to get a gift, there's an accusation from above. What's the accusation exactly? Why by Esav? Well, we have Ishmael too, don't forget. We have Esav's accusation because of the blessings. That will come up from time to time, that Esav accuses the Jewish people of taking his blessings, and if we don't do what the Torah says of us, he has a claim. And that is why we've had troubles every single time we try to come back to Israel. And then you have Ishmael. What's his problem, you may ask? What does he want from us? He also has an achizah. The Zohar says he has a hold on the land of Israel because he too was circumcised. So because he was circumcised, that enabled him to have an achizah. Achizah means a hold on Eretz Yisrael. However, his hold will be finished at some point. We believe that that hold came to an end when the Ottoman Empire, the Turk, was expelled from the land. They ruled that land for a long time. When the British took over, that stopped the Ottoman rule in Israel. Even though today we're still struggling with Ishmael, that's only because it's not over yet. We still have a lot of Jews who are unfortunately not yet doing the right thing. So Ishmael has a claim. Listen, why is he any better than we are? You know, we have a circumcision. We're also children of Abraham Avinu. So you see how all of these battles, people don't understand that the source of these battles, whether it's Ishmael or Esav, is spiritual in nature. It's not just anti-Semitism, or they hate you because you took their land. It's totally unfounded. It's not the reality. The reality is that there's something deeper over here that is troubling, that is causing these conflicts, these major conflicts between Ishmael and Israel, and between Esav or Amalek and Israel. The Zohar says that in order to defeat Esav, we have to wipe away his tears. Esav shed tears when he was told that Yaakov took his blessings. You want to defeat him, you have to wipe away his tears. How do you wipe away the tears of Esav? One or two ways. Either through the pain and suffering that we went through under him. So those tears, those painful times were a kapara and atonement, or through the tears of teshuvah. If the Jewish people are going to repent and do teshuvah, proper teshuvah, those tears also have the power to wipe away the tears of Esav. So what we see so far is, look, this is a battle between two major forces, two major powers out there. Even though one is emet and one is sheker, makes no difference. It's still a tremendous conflict between the two. And who's to say that emet should win if the emet is acting like sheker? If the truth is not pure, if it's living the life of Esav, sir, then why should you get the blessings more than Esav? You understand the accusation? That's what the accusation is all about. So when we went through all these persecutions, all the pogroms, a lot of people didn't realize why this is happening, that perhaps something needed to be done to strengthen our observance of Shabbat. Yeah. Why Shabbat? Shabbat is what identifies us. Ki od hi b'nei b'nei Yisrael. This is the sign between us and Hashem, that He chose us, that He created the world. And by us observing it, that is what we testify to. So if that is disrespected, this causes tremendous accusation. It is a known thing that the accusation becomes stronger before someone gets something good. He's about to be promoted, he's about to get married. One has to be very careful that there should not be anything that will get in the way of him getting what he wants to get. But that happens. If he does not behave himself, sometimes that which was even promised to him will not come easily to him because of some accusation. Just to end, it's very important that a person not take it for granted that just because he's living a peaceful life, that everything is calm, that nothing is happening to him, that he's okay, that this is a sign that he's a righteous individual. That is not so. It could be it's the quiet before the storm. A lot of people who are righteous people are going through a painful time, and a lot of people who are not so righteous have a peaceful life. Don't be misled by the tranquility that the person may have, that in itself is an indicator that he's a good person. No. The Pasuk says, Ashrei Adam mefachet tamid. One should always be concerned. Fortunate is the person who is always fearful. Umaksheh libo yipol b'ra'ah. And the one who's stubborn, he will fall in a bad way. What do you mean stubborn? Thinking that he's right, thinking he didn't do anything wrong. No, be careful. Ashrei Adam mefachet tamid. Fortunate is the person who's always fearful that perhaps he did something wrong. Perhaps he's not deserving of all this good. Why is Hashem being so kind to me? Perhaps, God forbid, He's giving me all the credit in this world and nothing in the world to come. That is a possibility. For one good deed that a person did in this world, he might get everything for it here and nothing there. That would be terrible. So we don't know why Hashem does certain things, but we have to be concerned always that perhaps we didn't do something completely right, and there's always hopefully time to repair it. That's what the Teshuvah is all about. Is that we should take the steps necessary to correct something if we suspect that it may not have been done right in the first place. I'll give you a quick example. I mean, we don't know whether we hurt somebody's feelings or we did something wrong to someone. We don't always know that, unless they tell us. So that is why it's a good thing to go over to people on Yom Kippur, before Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah, whenever you can. Do you forgive me? Just in case I hurt your feelings, I said something to you, I insulted you, and if there's anything that I did that perhaps I'm not aware of, please let me know. Do I owe you money? Things of that nature. This is a good practice. In this way, you're giving yourself a chance to correct past mistakes. Don't wait for people to approach you, because they may never do so. Either they forgot, or they're embarrassed, or they don't want to have anything to do with you. So you may never find out about it. It's a good idea for a person to be mefahed tamid, to always be concerned. Perhaps there's some unfinished business that he has to take care of. And the same thing with the Yetzer Hara. The evil inclination is really the biggest enemy of all of them. Even though here we were talking about Amalek being a tremendous threat against the Jew, and they are, until Mashiach comes, they will be the biggest threat. But that's as a nation. We have a power, we have a force within us that's called the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, which is constantly with us from the time we are born until we leave this world, that is always trying to get us. That is his job, to get us, to make us stumble. But just because that's his job, it doesn't mean that you can't win. You're never going to be given a powerful negative inclination that you can't control. If you have a challenge, that means Hashem knows that you can handle it. Otherwise, he wouldn't give it to you. It's not fair. So when it comes to the battle with our evil inclination, the rabbis tell us the best strategy for that is always be on the offensive. Always take the initiative. Don't wait for it to attack you and then defend yourself, because then it's very difficult. Imagine you have a bear that came into your house. It's going to be pretty difficult for you to fight off this bear, to get him to leave the house. But you can lock up the door, close the windows in such a way that you won't let him enter your house. It's easier to defend yourself when the animal or when the threat is outside than once the threat is inside, right? So the rabbis tell us, don't wait for the Yetzer Hara to come in and say, I'm going to watch all these bad movies and then I'll deal with them later. It won't affect me. No. Don't watch them to begin with. Don't put yourself in that situation where you're going to later on have to fight them off. Don't let them enter. So take the initiative, always go in the offensive. How do you go on the offensive with the Yetzer Hara? You always do good things. You always do positive things. Because challenges will always be. There will always be challenges. But at the very least, when we take the offensive, to always be honest, to always be truthful, to always do the right thing, to only say good things and not talk negatively about others. In other words, we're always doing the tov, then we will be strengthened in this way and be able to fight off that which is bad. And last but not least, since we're only human, the rabbis tell us, L'olam yakdim adam tefillah letzara. One should always pray before a tzara. Tzara means some terrible thing that may happen. It could be an illness, it could be an accident. One should always pray before. How do you pray before? You prayed that these things should not happen to you. Like we have in the Amidah, in the prayer, Refainu Hashem v'nelafeh, please heal us. But you're not sick, you're healthy. No, please heal us. In other words, please make sure that we're always healthy. Please preserve our health. Why should I pray for it? So that you should never become sick. Why? Because once you become sick, once a person is in prison, once he's become sick, once he's already in trouble, he's already being sued in court, for him to now win, for him to now get out of his predicament requires a lot more effort in Shamayim, to beseech the heavens, to get the best attorneys, to get the best doctors. It's a lot more difficult. Then you need a lot of zechuyot to get out of trouble. Don't get into trouble to begin with. Stay out of trouble. So therefore, always pray ahead of the tzara, that you should never come to the tzara. And obviously, that is part of our prayer every day, that Hashem should protect us from the Yetzer Hara. Don't befriend the Yetzer Hara on your own, right? Don't look for trouble. Don't become his friend. But if he comes your way, for that, do your best to avoid him and pray. That is why it's very important to regularly pray to Hashem that he should be on our side and help us avoid any potential trouble, and give us the strength to continuously fight the Yetzer Hara, and give the strength to the Yetzer Tov, so that we should be able to continuously do only good things.